Breaking news, a shocking court decision has halted DWP pension cuts, but millions of UK seniors remain at risk of losing £416. In a turn of events that has left the nation stunned, a critical court ruling has temporarily blocked plans by the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, to cut pension entitlements, moves that could have stripped as much as £416 annually from millions of UK pensioners. These cuts, planned without widespread public awareness, could have deeply impacted retirees who depend on every pound to cover rising costs of food, energy, and essential bills. While the court has intervened for now, this decision is not a permanent fix. Payments remain at risk, and the government's next steps could bring the issue roaring back. The proposal, hidden within a broader policy review, was on the brink of being implemented when legal action put a stop to it just in time. But now, the DWP is reportedly weighing an appeal, or perhaps even crafting new legislation to push the cuts through another way. What's truly alarming is how close this came to becoming reality without pensioners even knowing what was about to happen. Buried in complicated policy language and released without proper communication, the changes might have blindsided retirees across the UK, many of whom had no idea their financial lifeline was under threat. If the government wins in the next round of legal action, or if they find another route to force through the cuts, those £416 payments could disappear almost overnight, leaving many vulnerable seniors reeling. So how did we even get here? The proposed cuts weren't announced with fanfare or headlines. They were tucked deep inside a technical review by the DWP, a review that claimed to focus on long-term pension sustainability. What it really did, though, was suggest slashing key entitlements and allowances that many older people rely on, particularly those with lower incomes. The justification was familiar: budgetary efficiency, system reform, and making payments more streamlined. But when streamlining means taking hundreds of pounds from people who have paid into the system for decades, the question arises: streamlined for whom? Because for the average pensioner, especially during a cost of living crisis, the loss of £416 per year isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's the difference between keeping the heating on during winter or sitting in a freezing home. It's the choice between buying food or paying for medications. These aren't luxuries, they're essentials. The DWP's defense was that these changes were about sustainability and fairness, yet critics argue that it's the pensioners who are being treated unfairly. After all, most have contributed to the national insurance system their entire working lives with the understanding that a fair and reliable pension would support them in their later years. Changing the rules mid-game feels like a betrayal to many. Even more concerning was the lack of transparency. Legal experts who reviewed the DWP's process pointed out that the proposed cuts were not clearly communicated, that there was little to no meaningful consultation with the people who would be most affected, and that the entire rollout lacked accountability. The court agreed, stating that vulnerable individuals faced immediate and serious financial risk if the cuts were allowed to go ahead without proper safeguards. But make no mistake, this story isn't over. The DWP is reviewing its options, and many believe they'll challenge the court's ruling or attempt to reintroduce the cuts in a new form, possibly as part of future legislation that sidesteps the legal objections. If they succeed, millions of pensioners may once again find themselves on the edge of financial uncertainty. You might be asking, why exactly £416? That number represents the estimated value of specific top-ups and allowances that were being targeted. These aren't just random bonuses, they're key parts of pensioners' monthly income that help cover bills like gas, electricity, council tax, groceries, and basic healthcare needs. Remove that chunk of money, and you're not just reducing income, you're eroding quality of life, stability, and dignity. And let's not forget, the timing couldn't be worse. With inflation driving up the cost of living, energy prices still volatile, and essentials like food, transport, and housing becoming increasingly unaffordable, pensioners are already feeling the squeeze. For many, there's simply no room left in the budget to absorb another hit. The reality is, £416 isn't just a number on a page, it's heat in the winter, a trip to the doctor, or food in the fridge. These payments can be the line between just about managing and falling into poverty. This isn't just about numbers, it's about lives. What's also worth considering is that these payments aren't gifts or government generosity, they're entitlements earned through decades of contributions. The state pension was designed as a social contract: work hard, pay in, and receive a secure retirement. Undermining that contract now sends a dangerous message that those who kept the country running for decades can be quietly sidelined when budgets get tight. For many pensioners, it feels like betrayal. They're being asked to shoulder the weight of financial reforms when other sectors of government spending face far less scrutiny. Billions are allocated to other areas with barely a whisper, yet support for pensioners is treated as a burden. This court ruling has, for the moment, provided a reprieve, a moment to breathe, but not to relax. Because the fight is far from over. Legal battles could drag on, policies could be rewritten, and future budgets may contain even more veiled attempts to slash support. If anything, this ruling is a reminder: rights must be defended, and silence invites risk. Pensioners may not have government power, but they have their voices, and that voice must grow louder. From legal experts to pensioners' advocacy groups, from everyday citizens to political leaders, pressure is building to ensure that such decisions cannot be made in secrecy or silence again. Let's humanize this even further. Think of Margaret in Leeds, who depends on her full pension to afford a care assistant, or George in Birmingham, who uses his pension money to travel to and from hospital appointments. For people like them, the loss of £416 could mean losing care, skipping vital medication, or simply going without. Then there's the emotional impact. Financial instability leads to anxiety, stress, and declining mental health. For a generation that has already endured decades of change, war, recession, and rebuilding, retirement should be a time of peace, not uncertainty. So why, then, does the government continue to flirt with the idea of pension cuts? The answer lies in a broader debate about aging populations and economic pressure. Officials argue that with people living longer, the cost of pensions is becoming unsustainable. But is that a valid reason to reduce payments? Or should it be a call to redesign funding models without sacrificing those who can least afford it? After all, these are not luxury expenses, this is survival for many. And when public trust in the DWP is already low following years of errors, benefit scandals, and mishandled cases, the idea of cutting support to pensioners only deepens the public's skepticism. And the most shocking part? Many pensioners didn't even hear about these cuts from the DWP itself. The news reached them through the media, from friends, or not at all. That's a failure in transparency and basic respect. When changes are being made that could drastically impact someone's life, clear communication is the least that can be expected. So what happens next? The government has three potential paths. First, they can appeal the court decision and fight the legal battle in higher courts, a process that could take months or even years. Second, they could revise the policy and try to repackage the cuts under a different name, hoping to slide them through quietly. Or third, and most concerning, they could introduce new legislation that overrides the court's concerns entirely, making the cuts legal regardless of public opinion. That's why awareness is absolutely critical right now. If you're a pensioner or care about someone who is, now is the time to speak up. Write to your MP, join advocacy groups, and stay updated. The more visibility this issue has, the harder it becomes for these changes to happen behind closed doors. This is more than just a legal debate, it's a question of how we, as a society, treat our elders. Do we support those who built the country? Or do we turn our backs when they need us most? In conclusion, this court decision is a glimmer of hope, but not the end of the story. The threat still looms, and £416 remains a number that could vanish from pensioners' pockets with little notice. What this moment demands is unity, awareness, and a commitment to fairness. Because retirement should be about peace, not fear. So stay informed, stay vocal, and never forget you deserve better. If you believe pensioners should be protected, not punished, hit the like button and share this video. And if you want to stay updated on this story and others that matter, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Together, let's keep fighting for what's right.